Imagine this. You've spent months or maybe years writing your book. You finally send it off to an agent or publisher, and then crickets. Or worse, a rejection that says your book feels too thin, too long, or too overwhelming. Well, what went wrong? It might not be your content, it could be your word count. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about why word count matters more than you think. And here's what you're going to take away. You're going to learn about the ideal word count for different nonfiction genres, how the word count impacts marketability, reader engagement, publishing success, as well as pricing for your book, and what to do if your book is too short or way too long. This is Your Path to Publish. I'm your host, Zach Christensen. For the past decade, our team has guided authors just like you to find the best path to publish your book, get people excited to buy it even before it launches, and to turn it into the ultimate business card to build your business and your legacy. If you are ready to get your book out of your head and into people's hands, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Have you ever been to a movie and it just wasn't quite what you expected? There were plot holes, there were undeveloped characters, and some characters seemed to be totally forgotten or were written off pretty quick. It causes the audience to desire some closure. They want to be able to have some type of conclusion that brings everything to an end. So just like in the movies, your book is telling stories. Now, the characters for nonfiction books might be you, your experiences, or the principles. And the one thing that may directly impact whether or not you can wrap up a story that's either too long or too short is through the word count. Oftentimes, a word count is just considered a technicality. You get a range of how long a book is, but you don't really know what's behind those numbers. In reality, it affects the marketability, reader experience, and the printing costs of the book. So a 30,000 word book versus a 90,000 word book will obviously have different costs in printing, but will convey a different experience and set expectations for when the book is published and the reader picks it up. Word count tends to matter more with traditional publishers. They do have different standards based on research, current books they've launched, and current pricing models based on the word count of the book. And even if you're self-publishing, you need to be aware of this too, because this will directly impact how you choose to lay out and publish your book, and to make sure you understand the reader's expectations. So the big question is, how long should your book be? Well, to start off, it depends on your genre. Self-help and business books tend to be between 40 and 70,000 words and are actionable and tend to be more concise. Memoirs are 60 to 90,000 words on average, and it's very story-driven and immersive because it's the story of the author. Science and history books tend to be very research-heavy and tend to be longer, anywhere from the 60 to 100,000 word range. Now, these are just ranges, and there's always exceptions. There's some incredible books in each of those genres that are around 30,000 words, and there's some that are over 100,000 words. Think of Think and Grow Rich. That is a very long book, but has been a very impactful book throughout its tenure. In today's market, books are tending to skew a bit shorter, either because they're niching down, attention spans of the readers, and rising printing costs. The best thing you can do at this point for your book is start to research comparable books that are out there in your genre and see where yours fits in. Now, what are the trade-offs if your book is too long or too short? If your book is too short, you risk having it feeling underdeveloped or not expanding enough on a topic for the reader to understand. Because remember, they don't have you in front of you. They are solely relying on the book. Or it's too long, readers may lose interest, and if you're shopping it around to an agent, they might pass on it if they can't see a way for it to be shortened down. If you need to cut words, trim out any fluff or anything that's long or repetitive. Tighten up the sentences, say things in fewer words without removing any of the meaning or important lessons. Authors tend to be redundant, so watch for those redundancies. This is a great time for feedback from beta readers, from editors and others to help you cut down on words. If you need to add words, expand by giving additional examples, add case studies, and if it's a very action-oriented book, include more exercises or summaries at the end of the book. Think of your book like sitting down to a meal. If it's too little, readers will leave hungry. If it's too much, they push away the plate. Expectations have a tremendous impact on how the reader perceives your book. If you describe it as something short with actionable takeaways, you need to make sure your book aligns with that. If it's a book that goes in depth beyond what the typical person may know or want to understand, make sure that is conveyed and that you deliver on that. That's why it's important to know your audience, which I hit on again and again. So word count will then affect your publishing path. Now, it's not a hard and fast rule that you may need to go different routes, but it will impact the choices that you have. So traditional publishers with agents and editors expect books to fall within standard ranges. They're taking a risk on the book and they want to make sure that they mitigate that risk as much as possible. If you're going the self-publishing route, it's up to you. You get to pick how you want to publish the book. But remember, the pricing will be one of the biggest factors, as well as your reader expectations. If your book is intended to be taken on an airplane or a flight, make sure it can fit inside a bag. Don't make it a big size book that's going to be cumbersome to take around. Depending on how you plan to print the book, if you self-publish, print on demand tends to cost more for print books that are larger, which obviously impacts your profit margin. So this is a short and sweet podcast today, but here's the biggest takeaways that you can remember. Word count isn't just a number. It's a decision that you think about strategically that affects your book's success. So your action step is go out there, look up 3 comparable books in your genre and check out their word counts. If they don't have the word counts, at least look at the page count and the size of the font. See where your manuscript is currently stacking up. It can also be a great way to set word count goals as you're writing your book. Use the word count as your ally to make your book even better than it is now. If you have a question about your word count or you're struggling with your manuscript length, visit juxtabook.com, schedule a consultation, or send us an email, and we'll be happy to engage with you further. Be sure to tune in to next week's episode as we talk about building a marketing plan that actually works with 10 proven strategies. Thanks for tuning in to Your Path to Publish. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow author. We'll see you next time.